All right. Hello, my name is Drew Barrett, and this is my presentation on Chapter 13, Early Adulthood, and the focus is on physical development. So the objectives that I would like to accomplish through this presentation, I want you to be able to understand how biological aging influences development in early adulthood. I want you to be able to develop a working knowledge of the physical changes that take place during early adulthood. And I want you to know the environmental factors involved in aging. This is nutrition, fitness, socioeconomic status. So I will go over each one of those in more detail. Okay, to start off, the first aspect that we need to cover is biological aging. So what is biological aging? It is described as genetically influenced declines in the functioning of organs and systems that are universal in all members of our species. So this begins in early adulthood, and it's just the general aging that takes place at the DNA or cellular level. There's many factors that influence aging: genetics, lifestyle, living environment, historical period. All of those can either accelerate or slow down the biological aging process. So if you were born in 1800, your aging will probably be a lot more rapid than it would be today because of medical advancements, what we know about nutrition, what we know about physical fitness, and other aspects. And living environment, that generally refers to your socioeconomic status, and that alone also goes with lifestyle as well. And there are genetic factors that influence biological aging, and that's your longevity in your family tree. So that does play a role. Okay, what else? All right, let's talk about aging of DNA and body cells. So the main theory out right now is called genetically programmed aging theory, and this is the notion that cells have a lifespan of about 50 divides with plus or minus 10. And every time your cells divide, there's something called a telomere, and a telomere is located at the end of a chromosome, and it acts as a cap that protects the ends from destruction. And over time, as the splitting occurs, these caps shorten. So imagine a football player that's wearing a brand new helmet, and it works perfectly. Every time he takes a hit, every time he puts that helmet back on, it's going to be a little less significant. It will not protect him as much as it did before. This is kind of the same notion of telomere. Over time, it starts to be less effective, and that's what causes the cells to regenerate not quite as fast and be not quite as healthy as they were before. And again, this begins in early adulthood. Again, cell repair and duplication becomes less efficient as those telomeres begin to shorten. Also, we have what's known as free radicals. Free radicals are highly reactive chemicals that form in the presence of oxygen. And when oxygen breaks down a cell, free radicals are released. And the reason why this influences aging is because those free radicals destroy nearby cells and they cause aging. And the aging process happens because those cells destroy other cells. Now, we do have specific cells that help with the free radicals and helps clear the free radicals out, but over time it becomes less efficient, and those free radicals do actual significant damage, and they are attributed to more than 60 disorders of aging. So again, this can be influenced by lifestyle, nutrition, fitness, but I'll get into that later. But for now, in terms of just biological aging, telomere breakdown and free radicals are the main influences of aging of the DNA and body cells. Okay, let's talk about some physical changes. So changes in physical appearance occur in a slow decline. You're not going to wake up one day in your 20s and realize that you've aged significantly. It takes time, but the way you look at 20 will look different when you're 30. You won't notice it as much as other people will. So if someone hasn't seen you in 2 years, they can probably notice some differences, maybe some small wrinkles, maybe the hair's a little bit thinner, but for the most part, it's very slow, and it can be accelerated and decelerated with environmental factors. The first things to start to decline in early adulthood is your vision and your hearing. Declines in heart and lung functioning during exertion in combination with increased muscle loss leads to decreased muscle performance. Again, this goes back to the aging cells and the DNA. As your muscles cells duplicate, they become slightly less efficient and smaller. So if you don't use it, you lose it. So that muscle loss is what causes the motor performance to decrease. And muscle loss and decreased muscle performance is influenced mostly by lifestyle changes in physical activity. So if you worked out for 15 years and then all of a sudden you stopped working out, your muscles will be affected by that and you will start to lose that muscle that you worked for. That's all that means. Okay, more physical changes. What happens in the immune system? The immune system begins to decline after age 20 due to changes in the thymus. And the thymus is a specialized organ in the immune system. And by age 50, the thymus is barely detectable. So the thymus is very important for fighting off infection, fighting off bacteria, and fighting off diseases. So as you begin to age, that thymus gets smaller and smaller, and therefore protects you less from diseases and germs and being sick. So at the age of 15, your thymus is fully formed and fully engaged, so you're able to fight off all those germs that you get in school or all the germs that you get playing with friends. However, when you're 25, 30, it's not quite as big, so it does not do as good of a job as it would have when you were younger. Increased stress from environmental factors, and this is a big one. Work, family, divorce, money, these are all factors that limit the body's immune system because of stress-induced neurotransmitters, specifically cortisol, which interferes with normal functioning neurons. Now, cortisol is normally supposed to be good for you. Cortisol is only expressed usually when there's significant danger. So, in an evolutionary standpoint, cortisol was used if you saw a bear. So, let's say you're walking down the street and you see a bear, cortisol is going to flood through your brain and it's going to cause you to have a reaction, a physical sympathetic nervous system reaction. However, constant stress slowly releases cortisol throughout your brain and throughout your body, and it doesn't shut off. And that consistency of cortisol destroys other parts of your brain. It doesn't happen quickly, it happens over time, but that cortisol being released in your brain is not healthy for your brain. It's intended, evolutionarily speaking, just to be there in moments of severe life-threatening severe life-threatening issues. So here's just a little chart of some physical changes. I thought it'd be helpful to get a visual on aging. So let's take a look. So we have vision, and that begins to decline at age 30. Hearing, that goes down at age 30. Taste, age 60. Smell, age 60. Touch, that's gradual. Nervous system, that begins to decline around age 50. Your hair, this begins usually around age 35. It can be sooner, but on average it's 35. Height actually begins to decrease around 50 because your spine is no longer as erect as it used to be, so you have some small noticeable changes in your height. And skin, that is a gradual decrease. And again, that could be affected by nutrition and other aspects. Okay, let's talk about some environmental factors in aging, specifically socioeconomic status. Low socioeconomic individuals have higher rates of stressful life events, substance abuse, poor diet, lack of exercise, obesity, and risky jobs. And all these factors increase individuals' aging process. So let's think about it. If you are poor and you have a family and you have to provide for that family, the first thing on your mind is probably not your aging process. So in early adulthood, these things are new. So you probably have a young family and it's very important to you that you provide for them. So you are taking any job you can get, you're working long hours, you're eating whatever's there, you're not exercising, you may have substance abuse issues to deal with that stress, or you may have other issues in life that cause you stress. And all those issues create an acceleration in the aging process. It releases cortisol. Cortisol is bad for your brain. Cortisol creates poor cell division, and every time you get that cell division, you get those telomeres, and it's just a spiral. So it makes sense that low SES individuals would have a faster aging process and higher mortality rates because they're less likely to seek medical care as well. So on the flip side of that, high socioeconomic status individuals have greater access to healthcare. They have the ability to buy health conscious food. They have more social support. They have more opportunities for stress relieving activities. This could be hiking, yoga. They can purchase gym memberships, anything that you can think of, surfing, playing soccer, things like that. And overall, they have less stress. So, high SES, low stress. Low SES, high stress. So there you go. Okay, another factor that's influenced in early adulthood is fitness. 30% of Americans engage in at least moderate leisure time physical activity for 20 minutes or more at least 5 times a week. So that's kind of a low percentage in terms of what's recommended. 40% are inactive with no regular brief sessions of light activity, and this is dangerous. This is where we see excess weight gain, we see increased cardiovascular disease, diabetes, anything that will speed up the aging process and hinder your development. So exercise increases lean muscle mass, good. Decreases fat deposits, very good. And fights against disease, that is very good. So all of these, they increase the efficiency of immune system and immune system and cardiovascular system. Physical activity is also linked to decreased risk for cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, as I said before. So again, when you exercise, you are making your heart more efficient, and when your heart is more efficient, it can deliver the nutrients to your body in a faster way. So when your heart is not very efficient, that's where we see disease, that's where we see deterioration of cells and the degeneration of the DNA. And psychological well-being is increased when physical activity is a standard behavior. So there's plenty of neurotransmitters that are released when you exercise. Dopamine is one big one that's released during exercise, and it's very important to do so. Okay, the next environmental factor, another very important one, is nutrition. Americans are overfed and undernourished. Foods are packed with calories but offer little nutrients. And a quick example would be a Snickers. Probably costs $1 and it has probably 350 calories. Now, that is a lot of calories. However, you are not getting much bang for your buck in terms of nutrition. It has very little nutrients. It has sugar, salt, fat, carbs. It doesn't have those good sustainable nutrients that we need that you would get from, say, an apple or a banana, the potassium, vitamin C, things like that. It doesn't offer anything that will help sustain proper cell division. The United States is the heaviest nation in the world. Let that sink in. They are number one heaviest nation in the world. And 34% of American adults are obese. And again, this is caused by lack of motivation, increased stresses, any one of those influences that I discussed earlier can lead to obesity in American adults. And environmental pressures from advertisements and media increase the likelihood of consuming fast food and making poor health choices. So I dare you to turn on the TV and not find a commercial for Carl's Jr., McDonald's, In-N-Out, Pizza Hut, Domino's, any one of those things. You will 100 to 1 you'll find fast food as opposed to fruit commercials or healthy food options, because those are the foods that make money. We have this inherent desire to eat salty, fat foods because when we were just starting out, these are the foods that kept us alive. So our brains are still primitive in some aspects, that we desire those foods that used to keep us alive. Storing fat used to keep us alive. So obviously we've changed to a state where we have access to healthy foods. However, our brains still want that satisfaction and that desire for fatty foods. So advertisers kind of play on that inherent ability to need food, and it makes them a lot of money. And a decline in physical activity coupled with that poor diet lead to acceleration of aging and stress on the body. So once again, poor diet leads to low motivation, leads to not working out, and leads to more stress, and leads to poor cell division, and leads to a quicker aging process. So based upon the presentation that I just gave, I came up with 2 possible test questions that could be utilized in an exam. Question 1. Which of the following is related to slowing down the aging process? Is it A, a healthy diet, B, 30 minutes of moderate exercise 5 times a week, stress relieving activities, for example, yoga, hikes, massage, high socioeconomic status, or E, all of the above? So the correct answer here would be E, all of the above. Question 2. True or false? Biological aging is genetically influenced declines in the functioning of organs and systems that are universal in all members of our species. Is this true or false? It is true. Okay. Thank you very much. And that is my presentation.